Hey guys, Josh here. Welcome back to the All Out Safaris podcast, your go-to podcast for all things safari. And with me today is Shelby.
Hey guys.
This episode is a must listen. You don't want to miss this one. Today we'll be talking about the do's and don'ts when on safari etiquette. Grab yourselves a cup of coffee and enjoy.
So as a guide, what is the first do and don't?
So the first thing is to respect the wildlife. That's the biggest issue all guides face, because often you'll have guests who will think it's a zoo, and then they will treat the experience like it's a zoo. So they'll call the animals, they'll get too comfortable, they won't understand that these are wild animals, they are dangerous. So you've got to listen to your guide, follow his instructions. Your guide has studied these animals, they do it on a daily basis. We know how to handle various situations. So the first thing is keeping your voice down at basically any cool sighting. That's something I have to remind my guests of, is to keep your voice down. You can startle the animals so easily, especially if animals are, let's say, hunting or whatever. You know, it bothers the prey. The prey will get a hint of something going on, and then will often leave, and it sort of messes up the situation for whichever the predator is. So like last year, we had a leopard sighting. Leopard was stalking a steenbok, and guests were really loud. And steenbok immediately knew something was up and left. And I mean, the leopard was like 5 to 10 meters from the steenbok. It wasn't far. It was very close to chasing, and it makes things uncomfortable for other people on safari.
Yeah, so frustrating.
Yeah. So listen to your guide. If he says just keep quiet, just keep quiet. If there's something going on, the guide will communicate what you need to do in certain situations. So the first thing that comes to mind is if elephants get close, a lot of guests will get really scared, thinking the elephants are out to get them. But if you just stay quiet, we're in their habitats, in their environment. So the best thing to do is sort of blend in. So if you just sit still, let the animals do their thing, your experience will be 10 times better. Then being patient. A lot of guests will, let's say we find a leopard in a tree with a kill, and the leopard's in the canopy of the tree and you can't see it too well. We'll say to the guest, just wait, let's give it some time. The chances are the leopard will come to feed. Then even after that, the leopard usually comes down the tree, goes to get something to drink, and then comes back. And often guests will be like, we've been here, it's been 2 minutes and nothing's happened. And, they wonder why, they didn't see the action. So being patient is a massive thing. And just in terms of respecting the animals, it's not calling out to them, don't feed them. The amount of people, like at lodges, especially on game drives, people don't really feed the animals. But at lodges, often there'll be monkeys around, because they'll smell the food in the garbage cans or whatever it is. Then they'll throw orange peels at the monkeys, or even birds. Then guys will continue to do that, and now these animals think they'll get free food. So now another guest comes in next week to this lodge, and then now there's monkeys in their rooms or on their doorstep expecting food, and then they start provoking you when you don't give it to them. So that causes more harm. So actually feeding these animals causes more harm than good. It also forces the animals to stay away from their natural habits, which is to go out and forage and find food. But now they try and rely on humans, and from a safety perspective, it can cause quite a few issues. And the last one for me is to not stand up or lean out of the vehicle. We once had that with an elephant. Someone leant out the vehicle, and what happens is it changes the shape of the car. So it's now something that these animals aren't used to. They get startled. So an animal like an elephant will either run away, but 90% of the time it will probably charge you, come and investigate, and things can get messy when that happens. So that's when listening to your guide comes in. The guide will always tell you, stay in the vehicle, don't stand up, don't make noise, respect them, let them do their thing, and you'll be fine. But yeah, I'm going to give this over to Shelby, and what is one thing from her side.
So let's talk about then the people part of your experience. So how to be a good safari buddy. So for me, the first thing is to please be on time. So if a game drive then leaves at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're still brushing your teeth at like 5:05 in the morning, you actually might make the whole vehicle miss a sunrise lion sighting, for example. Another do for me is to definitely take turns with the best camera angles. So everyone does want their perfect shot, but the etiquette is that we shouldn't actually hog the prime viewing spot. So my advice is to then take your photos, but then let someone else get their photos as well.
Yeah, big one.
And then don't be definitely don't be afraid to ask questions. So guides do love it when guests are curious. It actually makes the whole experience a lot richer. So, but maybe just don't ask like, where are all the animals 5 minutes into the drive?
Yeah, for sure.
Just have patience. But any other questions that you have, especially with regards to animal behavior, anything like that, as what Josh says, about being patient and that kind of thing, is like, if you perhaps don't understand why a leopard's taking more than half an hour to go down and get a drink, for example, ask the guide what is actually typical leopard behavior, for example.
Yeah. Then another thing sort of on that aspect is asking guides questions as well. That comes into giving a guide your request. So if you say to a guide that we'd love to see a leopard or we want a lion sighting, whatever, at those sightings, if the guide can get you those sightings, he will always try and get you in the best position. So if maybe you don't have a good view, let's say from the vehicle, but let's say your brother does one seat ahead of you, has a slightly better view, the guide will always maneuver so everybody gets a view. He will always make sure that everybody has their best experience before you leave the sighting. Sometimes if it takes sitting at lions on a kill, but they're sleeping next to the kill for an hour, sometimes a guide will wait and make sure everybody gets that experience, especially if it's a request. So if a guest is really adamant on let's say, seeing wild dogs, if there's a lion sighting going on and a cool leopard sighting, but you haven't seen wild dogs, the guide will always try and give you the best experience that you asked for, because everyone's got different requests. So the guide will always make sure that you get your best view. Even if the guide can't see, he will find a way for everybody to get their share of that sighting.
And then the don'ts of how not to be a good safari buddy is try not to argue with the guide, because they do know the terrain, the animals, even the best viewing spots, so just let them do their thing. And another piece of advice that I could give is don't be glued to your phone. Like, seriously, take a few photos, but then put it down and just enjoy the moment.
Ideally, you'd have a camera, and that also helps.
I mean, even if you don't, you will sort of actually remember the experience way more than you'd actually remember scrolling on Instagram. And the last piece of advice that I could give is don't complain about the heat or the dust or even the bumpy roads, because you are in Africa at the end of the day. It's part of the adventure, so just go into it, like lean into it, just enjoy the bumpy ride.
Us guides, just because we host at various destinations doesn't mean we have an input or a role or a position to change the roads either. We will always warn guests about bumpy roads, about heat and whatnot. But when you book a tour with an operator, so if you look at our tours, you will see we will always give you advice on what clothing to wear, what to bring, what essentials there are. But we'll do an episode on essentials and what you need to pack and what you don't need to pack at a later stage. But it's definitely is communicate and ask questions before you go on a safari, so you can be prepared, so then you don't set yourself up for disappointment or have unrealistic expectations. But then another thing is camp and lodge etiquette. So one of the first things is, especially if you're in a camp that is inside a reserve. So if you're at a lodge in like the Sabi Sands or in Etiquette, they're inside the reserve, and a lot of them can be unfenced. So you will often have animals could walk through your camp. I'm sure a lot of people have seen videos of leopards walking on the pathways to rooms in places like the Sabi Sands, or in lodges in the Kruger, or an elephant drinking from the pool. I mean, it's a common practice, especially in the dry season. There's not water around, so the elephants will often stick around the lodge and drink from the pool. It happens. So respect them even at the lodge. Just because you're not on a game drive doesn't mean your responsibilities as a guest and even as a guide change. We will still make sure that you guys are safe at the lodge and places like that.
I was going to say, even though it's really cool, you do still have to keep in mind that it is a wild animal and your safety is number one one priority.
Yeah, 100%. And that, as a guide, your safety is in our hands. If you guys are just on a holiday, it's not necessarily in your hands. We have to make sure that you are safe, that you know what to do in certain situations, or ideally that we're there to help you in certain situations. And these animals can climb. These animals can jump over fences, even if you have a fenced camp. A leopard can quite easily jump over a fence. An elephant can very easily break down a fence. It happens. It's part of the experience. But at the lodge, and your guide will always brief you on what to do, what to look out for. But then using the dustbins, again, don't feed the animals. If you have a banana or you have a cold drink or whatever, don't just leave it out for the animals. A lot of people think it may be doing good, but it really doesn't. Use the facilities at the lodge. Use your dustbins, things like that. And follow lodge rules about water and electricity. A lot of these lodges are solar powered. A lot of these lodges have boreholes. So water doesn't come from main towers. And in South Africa, water is a very valuable source. So make sure you use it wisely. It's just etiquette. It's just practice. If someone came to your house and used all your water, you're not really going to like it. Then don't wander off alone at night. That's another situation, especially in these unfenced camps. There are a lot of operators like ourselves who have tours in fenced camps if it makes you more comfortable. But then we also have tours in places like the Sabi Sands where it isn't unfenced. Always have someone with you, because if something happens, it's a lot easier to get help. If someone goes and steps on a snake and you're on your own, something can happen. Yeah. And you want someone to be able to help you. We want to be able to help you. Just make sure there's someone around, especially at night. If you're in the day and you want to go to the pool on your own, that's fine. But especially at night, when you can't see 10 meters at night with just a phone torch. A phone torch is often fine for looking around your feet and where you're going, but you never know what's around. These animals, a lot of them are nocturnal. The dangerous ones a lot of them are nocturnal. Scorpions, spiders, a lot of things like that. And then the biggest thing is, don't be rude to the staff. People running these camps, running these tours, whatever it may be, are trying their very best to give you the best experience possible. And when you're rude to them, it doesn't look good, doesn't feel good for the staff. It's like in a restaurant. If a chef overcooks your steak, it's not the waiter's fault. Same kind of situation. Just respect the staff. They're doing their best to give you a good experience. Do your best to make them feel like they're doing a good job as well. Showing gratitude, just words of affirmation, saying thank you, really enjoyed that game drive, thank you, the dinner was amazing. Things like that really, really help the staff, really motivate them, really push them to do even more for you. So showing that gratitude is a massive thing.
And then can I ask you, sort of, for an example perhaps of where somebody actually did not take into account safari etiquette, especially perhaps at a sighting? There
was one where you get people who are crazy enough to get out of cars, for example, especially in these national parks. National parks are amazing places to host safaris. You can get amazing experiences, and it is more affordable than your private game reserves. But you do get the odd local. The worst I've seen is I saw a family in the Pilanesberg. A lot of guys who know Pilanesberg will know of Mankwe Dam. It's a massive dam in the middle of the park. So a family, literally, I kid you not, family of four or five with children, get out the car with plastic bags, toiletries, went to the dam and bathed. I kid you not. And that dam's infested with crocs, and it is infested with hippos. But guys will go and do that, and then they'll blame the animals for getting alarmed when something they've never seen before. That's an example. People being bitten by snakes, for example. It happens in some of these places, but it's being unvigilant. If you look where you're going, you're not going to step on a snake. And most of these animals are very afraid of you, especially out of a vehicle. It's abnormal for a lot of these animals to see someone out of a vehicle. So if you're on a walking safari and you come across a rhino, a rhino's not used to seeing people on foot, so it's going to be alarmed. So the chances are it will run away. When I did my qualifications and we were doing trails and tracking, that's one thing that often happened. You'd find a group of elephants and they'd walk away because it's something they're not used to seeing. That's a big example. The worst story I've heard is at some of these lodges or various experiences, guys do like a sleep out. So you would sleep out in the bush, unfenced. You'll have guides with guns and things like that. But then this guy decided to go and sleep out away from where everyone else was on his own, didn't communicate with people what was happened, and they got killed by a leopard. It's a genuine, these situations happen, but that's why you've got to follow what your guides tell you. You know, you just follow the rules. It's simple. It's like laws, because laws aren't there, you know, for no reason. They're there for people to be safer and for a better experience. Because I would hate if I'm on a experience like that with my friend, and I told my friend, sleep by everybody, and they said nope, and then they go, and then the next day they find them dead in a tree, hoisted by a leopard, because that's exactly what happened. And it's harsh to hear, but it's the reality. It is what happens. These animals are wild. They are predators. Look at stories of shark attacks. If it's a group of people, a shark's not going to attack them. In places like America, bear attacks. If it's a group of people, the bear's is usually going to disappear, because guys are out on their own. You do have freak accidents, but it's not going to happen when you are in a group with a guide and you are following their instructions. A freak accident like that's not going to happen. So those are some examples, and that's why you follow what the guide tells you to do.
Another question I do have for you, Josh, is have you ever actually missed a sighting because of somebody's poor etiquette?
I haven't missed any sightings, but there's been quite a few sightings that have been ruined, or very much, not necessarily ruined, but tainted. The sighting that you have of the animals, whether someone taints it or not, is always great, but it sort of taints the memory a bit. So there's quite a few examples. One being, I was actually on holiday with my dad and one of my best friends, and another friend of ours was at the sighting with us, and it was just us two, and we had pride of lions, 2 lionesses, 7 lion cubs. So that's a big group, right? So we saw them across the river. They came across the river. It was a dry riverbed. The mom went across the river, called the cubs, and brought all 7 cubs across. It was amazing. And then they sat on a rock 2 meters from our vehicle. Like, it was an incredible sighting. And then an operator, a game vehicle came up, and completely, I don't think he really knew where these cubs were. Look, the bush around this rock was quite thick, and there were only a few points where you could really see them from. But anyway, this guy came and he drove onto the rock, scared all of them away, ruined the sighting for everybody, because I'd alerted another friend of ours to come and join us, because he was also in the park at that time, and we got him to come along. And as he had arrived, this guy comes along, drives onto the rock. I kid you not, he almost hit the lions. And I mean, imagine having that on your hands.
Yeah.
And
I would never.
And then left. You know, we were speechless. And in that situation, like, a lot of people ask, like, what do you do when you see that? So it will be the same no matter where you are. The first thing you can do is you need sort of proof of what's happened, so you can send it through to people in high positions, whether it's parks boards or whatever it may be, to actually find out more about this incident. There's often like a statement that's got to be written, or whatever happens. But you do sort of have to reprimand the guy. My friend said to this guy, like, what on earth are you doing? Like, can you not just ask us to move, and we'll make space for you? And that's another thing in etiquette, is as a guide, we've got to allow other guides to have opportunities as well, because we aren't the only guides working. We aren't the only safari happening. You know, you guys also aren't the only guests there. So everybody's got to work together to give everyone else the best opportunity as well, so everybody can benefit. That's what happens on safaris. A lot of, in private reserves, it's things like maximum 3 people per 3 vehicles per sighting, and sometimes there's people who just control the sighting, and being able to have everybody have a good experience is always what matters most. But then from your side, have there been any sightings that you've missed, or any sightings that have been ruined because of people who don't follow etiquette?
Yeah, definitely ruined. I can think of 2 really quickly. Is one of them was, I had spotted a leopard in a tree right next to the road. It was at the Pilansberg. We were driving down, and it was one of those where I literally, as I looked to my right, up in the tree, I thought, spots, you know?
Yeah.
So I stopped, reversed, and, leopard, and we were the only ones sort of sitting there. The park was very quiet, but
How long were you there for alone before other people showed up?
I mean, I can't remember. It's maybe 20 minutes.
Okay, so it's a good amount of time. Yeah, for sure.
So we were just sitting there and enjoying the sighting. Found a great spot where the leopard was. He actually was lying facing bum to the road, but then actually got up and turned around to face us, and he was looking in my lens. He was looking at me. It was a great photographic opportunity. Like, I just loved it. So I was snapping away and everything. So eventually a lot of other people came and sat there as well. Another etiquette thing is also, if you're at a sighting, especially if you're perhaps on a self-drive, is you normally actually have to turn your vehicle off.
Yeah, that's a lot of thing. That's a big one.
Especially if you want to like record a video or something, there's nothing worse than hearing like a diesel engine in the background. So anyway, side note, but basically we were sitting at the sighting for quite some time, and this leopard was very, very relaxed, and he was so tired. He was and lazy. He was not coming out of that tree. But unfortunately, a very large open vehicle came, and unfortunately the guests were very loud. So now they arrive and make this noise. And unfortunately as well, they were on the side of the road closer to the leopard in the tree.
Right.
So that noise then made him uncomfortable, and the leopard then jumped down the tree and unfortunately then, went out of sight.
Yeah.
So that was kind of ruined, where I thought to myself, really, all of us were enjoying this so nicely, and unfortunately there's a prime example of how noise can unsettle an animal. Then another example of kind of having a sighting ruined was, we had the Central Pride of lions in the Pilanesberg. They were sort of lying in the grass, completely out of visual, but you could see a tail flick every now and then. So we luckily managed to find them because of other people parked there. But we had sat and waited for more than an hour for these lions to move. And eventually we were then the only ones left at the sighting.
Yeah.
And so as soon as the hill or mountain cast a shadow, I thought to myself, at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I said to myself, these lions are now going to move. So literally it was like as if they heard me. They got up and started walking, and somehow, I have no idea how these people just come out of nowhere. But all of a sudden we had quite a number of people at the sighting, and especially those big OSVs. Yeah. And so there was a line of cars, but people knew that we had been parked there before them.
Yeah.
But of course, everybody wants to get front row seats. So because the lines were moving towards a road where we knew then they were going to cross, because they were obviously making their way to perhaps go and hunt or something. And there was actually a herd of eland nearby. Yeah. And so we knew that they were going to perhaps cross a road. So all of us forming a line and everything, I actually eventually had to push in to this line. Otherwise, and it was even just a local person in their own vehicle. They, push in front of me, and I had to push in front of an open vehicle so that at least I was able to also fall into this queue, so that we were actually able to get a view of this line crossing the road. Yeah. And it's one of those where I do actually have the photo, but you could see in front of me there were probably 2 vehicles, and then on the other side of the road there was one of those big open vehicles. So unfortunately my photo of the lion walking across the road is just, she's framed by these vehicles. So it's unfortunately, for photographic point of view, it's really not great. But then also the etiquette of, you saw me waiting here before you let me go before you, just because of like a first come first serve basis. You know what I mean?
And a big thing is everybody there wants to see things, and I can tell you, if you give other people the time of day to get an opportunity to view the animals, they will usually do the same for you, because people know that sometimes these sightings can be hard to come by, especially if you're a first time visitor, or if you're on your own doing a self-drive and you're not sure where to go. A lot of people will talk to each other about what they've seen. If you help other people out, even guides helping other guides out, they'll help you back. And that's a big thing people forget. People may see it as every man for themselves, but if you're helping other people, they will help you back. It's as simple as that.
A big thing for me as well is if a big, even just a normal sized open vehicle, if, because they are a lot higher than normal vehicles, like us in a self-drive SUV, some
vehicle.
people even go to the bush in a little Polo.
Yeah.
Because that you're a lot higher than what we are, then rather let us not maybe go in front of you, but maybe next to you or something like that, just to allow us also to see, because don't block our view. So I've had it so many times, and it was even at that line sighting I just said now. You have these big vehicles in front of you, and I cannot see because of the fact that they are so massive. But because you're way higher than what we are, let us go in front of you or next to you. Yeah. So then we can all have a view. Yeah,
just think of from a visibility perspective. If, like on a tour we just did to the Kruger about a month back, we were at this leopard sighting. A friend of ours told us about a kill he'd spotted in a tree, like literally 2 meters from the road. And in that situation, if a road is wide enough, this is from a self-drive perspective, if there's a vehicle that's higher than you need to be between them and the animal so they can also see. So think about the vehicles that other people are in. So if you're in a normal 9-seater
but then also leaving space for vehicle maneuvering.
Exactly. So if you're on a self-drive, so for those, a big thing is just read the rules in the pamphlet that you get if you're on a self-drive at the entrance gates. Just read what the rules tell you. But an unwritten rule that people don't understand or don't necessarily know is park on the side of the sighting. So there needs to be, usually if the road is wide enough in a place like the Kruger, they make 3 lanes. All right. The furthest one away from the sighting is the sighting for people to pass. If people don't use that as a pass sighting, then the middle lane becomes a pass sighting. But the lane always closest to the animal is the lane that people use to view the animal. You don't now sit in the passing lane to view the animal. If you are a vehicle that has a lot of height and you aren't blocking people, but by all means, but the second someone needs to come through, you have no choice. You have to let them through, because it also can cause congestion at sightings and things like that. But just help other people out. And another thing is, if you are booking a safari, the best thing is to book with if it's a private guide or at a lodge, book at a lodge where people don't fight at sightings or fight for sightings. Go with an operator that has a community, other guides who are there to help each other out, guides who work together, because that's what happened on our last tour. Two friends of ours were both on drives, and we alerted each other about what was going on, and then all 3 of us were enjoying this great leopard sighting. But then the last thing is space for animals. Is make sure you are leaving space for the animals. So this leopard sighting, in this case, the leopard was right next to the road. So there's a mom and a cub. Cub was quite relaxed. Mother was not. So the mother was always sitting in the long grass about 20-30 meters from the tree with the kill. And eventually someone decided to park for the whole day right at the tree. And that's why the leopard didn't come back. The second that guy left, the female leopard came up, took the kill and left. But when we were all parked on the other side of the road, giving the leopard space, the cub would sit in the tree beautifully. The mom would come and inspect the tree, no issues in the slightest. Respecting the animals is the biggest thing. A lot of things go hand in hand with respecting the animals. You respect the animals by not leading out the vehicle. You respect the animals by giving them space. You respect the animals by not making too much noise. And if you're listening to the guide, and if a guide is also wanting to respect the animals, you will respect the animals in turn if you are listening to him. So listening to your guides, just respecting the animals and just follow the rules. It's simple. And that will make your experience 1,000,000 times better. But then to close off, there you have it. It's really just, like I said, about being respectful to the animals, the guides, and your fellow travelers. Even if you have booked a photographic safari with a group of photographers, or you have booked a private safari to the Kruger or wherever, if you respect everybody, it will benefit everybody as well. So is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, all good.
Okay, cool. So there you have it. That's your do's and don'ts, how to not be that guy who ruins the experience for everybody. But if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the All Out Safaris podcast and leave a review if you will. But if you want to find out more about us, you can check our website, alloutsafaris.com, or simply just check our social media, which is at All Out Safaris on both Facebook and Instagram. If you have any questions or any topics you'd like us to talk about, send us a DM and we'll gladly do an episode on that. But I hope you enjoyed. Take care, guys.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.